Hey gang, welcome back to JDaddy's Garage. In this video, I'm continuing to work on the 69 Cobra Jet project. Now, many of you already know this car, what I've done to it, and the fact that the owner has passed away has made it a little more complicated in what I'm doing. However, I'm continuing to drive on with the project. Now, in the previous videos, I had been stripping down the underside of the car, and I've continued to do that. I've used a variety of tools. I've used a surface conditioning tool. I've also used wire wheels and sanding disc and all sorts of things. So I'm going to show you the bottom of the car. Now, the goal for this video was to make the car ready to add epoxy primer to the bottom side of the car, seam sealer, and then other paints and materials that will be added on to that. So I have some information I want to share with you during the video. I also have researched some of the colors that may be used on this car. This is a San Jose car. So my understanding is it would have had the red primer on the bulk of the car. And I've also looked at some other videos in order to get some more information from that. So let me show you the status of the car and what the plan is going forward. You already know I have it on the rotisserie that I got from redlinestands.com, and I have been stripping down the bottom or the outside of the car. So obviously these are the aprons, shock tower. I've also went and stripped the top of the cowl. Previously I had painted the inside of the cowl whenever I installed it with Rust-Oleum. So the plan will be to block this off so I don't get any more overspray on that. So I have to mask this or tape it so I don't get paint and material spraying in there. Otherwise, the other side, the outside of the car, the A-pillars, the roof, quarters, I'm not going to mess with that this time. However, I did start stripping off some of the weld-through primer that Dynacorn puts on these cars. And also in previous videos, I showed you where I installed these plates and pieces for the back seat, and all that is in place as well. And of course, I did grind down the welds here on the firewall because I had welded in the upper half of the original firewall and also the welds on top of the overlap for the floor pan. All right, so I've stripped all of the front section here, the strut rod brackets that are welded to the core support and the frame rails. I've stripped everything I could around these mount points for the suspension, and of course the rest of the underside of the car. I had somebody suggest that I should just clear coat it at this point and leave it, but I'm not going to do that, obviously. And I've stripped out the inside of the mini tubs and everything else as well. Now, what I also want to do is mask off the trunk opening because I don't want to have overspray going into the trunk area. So I need to, at this point, finish cleaning up, wipe everything down, and start prepping to spray the epoxies. Or sorry, EPX 908 black epoxy primer. This will be what I spray everything with here, including the outside. I don't know that I want to do the engine bay just yet, but I may, while I'm at it, spray everything in that area. It might make it a lot easier, and then come back and spray the other stuff afterwards. So I've done just an initial sweep of the floor, and let me tell you, this pan is full of weld-through primer and grinding dust and little wire strands from the wire wheel. So yeah, it feels like about a pound or so of material in that dustpan. So I'm going to try some of this. Tight areas here, but you can see this is taking that off really well. Now you may ask, why am I stripping all this off? Well, earlier I was cleaning up this right here, and I found a rust area. So somebody had put fingerprints on it or something prior to putting on the weld-through primer, and it was still there. So this stuff probably does a decent job, but I can't take a chance on there being something trapped underneath that'll come out later. So I'll continue on with that. Now these areas up here, it takes a little more, I don't know, some other ideas to get into those spots. And one thing I have been using is my cordless drill with a wire brush on it. So just some different ideas on what you can use to get this area cleaned up. Still got some sanding up here to do on the top of the cowl. And this area here, I have to get into with the sandpaper as well. These edges also need addressed. And as I said earlier, this is Rust-Oleum inside here. You can see it's kind of dusty, but I will tape all these holes off all the way up. Not that it would matter up in this area so much, but this area I want to keep it the way it looks and protect that. So maybe, I don't know if I need to do these or not, but I probably will anyway, because that's how I operate. That's just an overview of what I'm doing here. I'll continue to sand down any areas that have primer hidden underneath somewhere, little corners, stuff like that. And then I'll probably go over it again with the DA just to make sure it's got the right kind of feel to it. Probably don't have to, but that's what I'll do. Yep. All right. Let me get some more prep work done and then clean this up and start masking. Okay. I've been going over everything that I possibly can, as you know, and I decided to strip off some of the weld-through primer from the quarter panels as well. And I was surprised. You can see this right here. This isn't a big deal, but it's like a sag in weld-through primer, and that would show up later if you were trying to do bodywork on top of that. Believe me, it would show up. So I'm cleaning the radius here, trying to make all that look good, and I found this area and these two right here, and that's rust. That's actually rust underneath the weld-through primer, so I'll have to make sure that's taken care of and cleaned up. And then on the other side, I was doing the same thing, and I found a spot right there. Hope that shows up on the camera okay, but that's why I'm being very cautious about how I do this sort of thing. I want to make sure that I don't have anything that's going to come back and haunt me later. Alright, I have shown you this area here. I masked off just enough to slow down any paint coming through the gas tank opening. And then up front here, again, just to not get too much inside of that cowl, I did spray that previously with the black Rust-Oleum. Not that it's a big concern, but I'm just trying to eliminate some of that. But what I did find is this. I was wiping things down and I thought there should not be a dent right there. So it must have been in shipping that something was sitting on that, or they had a strap on it or something. So I'm going to have to just dolly that out a little bit, try to make it go away. But I verified with the original car and no, there should not be a dent there. I was just kind of surprised. I didn't notice it before, but from the bottom side of the car, it's not so obvious. It is there when you get the shadow on it. But I'm pretty sure that's from a strap or something else sitting on it. Everything is wiped down, and I think it's ready to go. I still need to mask off parts of the stand, as I mentioned. And once I get that done, then I think I can start spraying. Definitely black. Ah, good. Nothing on the bottom. I should also point out, I did shake this on the paint shaker, so it's also, you know, been pre-mixed this way. I hate it. Well, still 1-to-1. It's pretty thin, so I'm going to probably not put a lot of air pressure on the gun just to get it to flow easy. Let me get the gun set up and we'll start spraying. I know. I could have just left this on here, right? Well, I think that looks pretty good. Getting that black on there has made a huge difference in the appearance of everything, and there's still more to do. But what I want to take care of is the seam sealer. So I've looked at the PDF that I have. I also looked at Jerry Heasley, what he was doing, and of course he was doing a 68 car. What I saw in the PDF was some variations of seam sealer. As an example, it showed some that actually had some seam sealer here, up here about to this hole, somewhere in that area, here. Some showed at the bottom here. Of course, this has that plate in it, so I may go over that just to make it smoother, but it's not necessary. There were some variations here, and of course, this edge where the flange meets the cowl, upper and lower. And looking this over, the earlier cars, they had this piece sticking out, this lower flange stuck out further on the cowl, but this is almost even. So I may just put a little sealer on the bottom of that. There was some that had sealer up here. So there's just variations of it. I'm going to try to get what I can, or as close as I can, to some of those, but I'm not going to sweat it. It just needs to be watertight for the most part, and I'm just going to look at areas, say like this looks like it would catch water, right? We know this would trap water, and there's nothing you can do about that. This could catch water, this could catch water. So those are the things I'm looking at on this part of the car. Underneath, there's really not much that can be addressed. It is, I mean, it's just the way it is. Let me tilt this up so you can see. So the bottom of the car, when Jerry Heasley did it, he just did red epoxy on everything on the bottom. He didn't address any kind of gaps or put seam sealer in different locations. Now I still may put some here because I don't like this gap for the firewall flange. Back here I may add sealer to this flange as well, just to keep anything from getting in there. But overall, there's really not much that can be done. You know, this is how they were made. Now, what was the other thing I was looking at? Oh, the flange for the wheelhouse. So there is a little tiny gap right there. I will add seam sealer onto that flange just to try to make it complete, let's say. And then what Jerry Heasley did is he had sprayed this area here for the wheelhouse with red, or the red primer, and then he came back with the schutz gun and sprayed this area with that. I'm going to skip adding the red, I think, at this point, and I may just go straight to putting the material that they use for the schutz gun here, and then come back and spray everything red, because he did it, I don't know why he put red and then the undercoating material and then did more red, but that's basically the whole bottom of this ends up being red completely. So I think that's how I'm going to approach this. Just try to take care of the gaps that I really don't like, and make sure I get seam sealer anywhere that it's going to have, you know, water cavities, let's say. So as I'm considering spraying the undercoating, I wanted to look at something on the original car that I have. Now I'm assuming, because you can see this material right there and up here, and there's even still some inside of the shock tower, that I'm going to spray the undercoating along this lower edge and get it up over all these kind of seams here. Now if I look at the passenger side, you can see there's undercoating there. Hopefully the light's not too bright. All the way up into here, there, and then inside. Here's some on the inside of the apron and inside the shock tower. So it looks like they did a pretty good job of covering just about everything with undercoating. I'm assuming, again, that this is how the original stuff. I know this control arm's been replaced, but you would think if they had cleaned all that off, it would have
you know, they wouldn't still be there. So I'm going to go with that. So that'll be how I'm going to apply the undercoating there. I'm going to use that schutz stuff. And so I'm going to do a little more prep work on the body. All right, I have seam sealer in a lot of places. I've done the overlaps for the firewall and the floor pan. I've added some to the seam here, trying to fill in any of that gap between the flanges for the outer and inner rocker. Overlaps went around where the overlap is for the mini tub, and anywhere else that I could think of that may benefit from having seam sealer. Some of this I went over these welds just because of pinholes. Just wanted to cover anything up like that. I've got it in this seam as well, and then I've taped this off so that I don't get overspray from the undercoating material. So the plan will be to spray the mini tubs, wheelhouses. There may end up being some in here on this frame just from overspray. I'm not worried about that because it's not going to matter. Up front here, I'll again probably do like I did on the other car, spray these areas. I will mask off these holes so I don't shoot the undercoating through those holes. And I'll point out, this is the product that I'm using. This is No Cleanup High Coverage Body Schutz Coating Black 08964. You need that, this gun, and one of these attached to that. So what happens is you shake up this can, this gets inserted into the can and locks in. This little foam, I guess, seals it up, and then you connect the gun to this so it'll cam onto that. Should go something along those lines, and then cam over, and then you attach a regulator to the back of the gun, and then you can spray. So what I have used is my paint shaker. This works pretty well even with that small can. Wanted to show you what it looked like after I sprayed that schutz coating, and there's not a lot of texture. I thought maybe it would be a little bumpier, but it's fine the way it is. Have everything covered like I had intended, so pretty happy with that. On back here, same thing with the wheelhouse. Now in the video that Jerry Heasley did, he did a second round of this stuff, and I probably will too, and just try to make it thicker. I don't know, I don't know if it matters much. It is coated, and this will get top coated with the red primer as well, but just kind of wanted to show you what it looked like. I did spray some in here as well, some overspray. So just a look. Okay, I'm getting ready to spray the red. Now this is the same stuff that Jerry Heasley used in his video. This is R-M, a brand of BASF red chromate free epoxy primer, EP869. I also have the PA897. This is products that Charles had bought that I'm going to use. This mixes 4 parts to 1 part. 4-to-1. All right. All right, so here's a look at the bottom of the car. I think this turned out pretty well. I did have some overspray up into these wheel wells, and I will address that later. I will recoat that and make that look cleaner. Everything sprayed out really nice. I got good coverage, and back here I plan to respray this black. I think it makes more sense. They would have done it on the assembly line as well. So all this will be black in here with some overspray on the frame rail. Again, I'm not trying to do a concourse correct car, but I want it to look as close to what Charles wanted. That's the goal. And I think overall it looks really, really good. Now the other things I want to do is address the engine bay. So this will get painted black. There's really, I'm going to have to mask certain things off and spray this. Apparently when you look at this from the front, looking down into the engine bay, you wouldn't be able to really see any of the red, is I think the goal. So I'm going to spray all this with the black, and that's a material that Charles had provided. Back here, this will be in the next video. I'm going to spray everything red in here, and I need to remove the EDP coating from the tail panel. I'm not going to remove it from the seat divider. I'm just going to scuff that real good. That's not exposed to the elements at all. There's a few welds I'll grind down here and there just to make sure they're taken care of and look pretty good. And then all this will get sprayed red, and then inside here this will get sprayed with the coating, the schutz coating. So all this will get some inside here and there, and this to act as a sound deadener. And I did spray the firewall with leftover black epoxy, and I just wanted to make sure that any of the bare metal had been covered. And so everything's been sprayed inside there. And of course this would be
painted red. So everything will be red on the inside as well. And there's a few other details that I'll have to address moving forward. But I think I'm really happy with how this looks. Well, what do you think? I think it turned out really nice. Now there's still a lot to do. I'll be working on the inside. I will be addressing, taping off things and masking and painting and still doing detail work and trying to make it as good as I possibly can. This was what Charles wanted. He wanted to have it look similar to what it may have looked like when it rolled off the assembly line, even though we know it's not original and all that sort of thing. So it is what it is at this point. I want to thank everybody for being here, but I want to especially thank my patrons for showing up and helping me to make these videos. I've had quite a few people join me on Patreon, and that has been tremendous. It is difficult for me to make these choices, but I have to do what's best for me, and as I've said, this is a hard time for being on YouTube and trying to make quality videos without much reward. So if you're interested in seeing more details about this car and this process, follow me on Patreon, and I will show you more stuff and more details, and we can go from there. I will continue to make videos for YouTube, but my longer, more detailed videos will be on Patreon. That's it for this video, and again, thank you for being here, and until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.
Lovely.